The morning sun cast long shadows across downtown Phoenix as Mike Tyson stepped out of his black SUV. At 57, the former heavyweight champion carried himself with the same intensity that once made him the most feared man in boxing, but something had changed. His eyes, once filled with rage and violence, now held a different kind of fire, one born from years of seeking redemption. Today was supposed to be simple, a charity visit to the Phoenix Community Center, where he would speak to troubled youth about second chances. Tyson had been doing these talks for months now, trying to give back to communities that reminded him of his own difficult childhood in Brooklyn. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same man who once terrorized opponents in the ring now spent his days trying to save kids from the darkness that had nearly consumed him. As he walked toward the community center, Tyson noticed something was wrong. Police cars were racing past him, their sirens wailing like banshees in the desert heat. Emergency vehicles flooded the streets, and the usually busy downtown area was being evacuated. Confused pedestrians hurried past him, some crying, others talking frantically on their phones. "What's happening?" Tyson asked a passing police officer. "Sir, you need to leave this area immediately," the officer replied, not recognizing the boxing legend. "We have an active hostage situation at the Phoenix First National Bank. The entire block is being cleared." Tyson's blood ran cold. The bank was only 3 blocks from the community center, where dozens of kids were waiting for him. His mind raced back to his own childhood, remembering the fear in his mother's eyes when violence erupted in their neighborhood. These children didn't deserve to live in terror. Instead of leaving like everyone else, Tyson found himself moving closer to the chaos. Something deep inside him, something he couldn't explain, was pulling him toward the danger. Years of therapy and spiritual searching had taught him to listen to these moments, when the universe seemed to be calling him to action. He could see the bank now, surrounded by police cars and SWAT vehicles. Officers crouched behind barriers, their weapons drawn. The building's large windows reflected the flashing emergency lights, creating an almost surreal light show against the morning sky. But this wasn't entertainment. This was life and death. A news van pulled up beside him, and a reporter jumped out with her cameraman. "This is Sarah Martinez reporting live from downtown Phoenix, where a hostage situation is unfolding at First National Bank. Police have confirmed that at least 6 people are trapped inside with an armed suspect." 6 people. 6 innocent souls, whose lives hung in the balance. Tyson closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline that once carried him through championship fights. But this wasn't about glory or money. This was about something much more important. He approached the police perimeter, where Detective Maria Santos was coordinating with the SWAT team. She was a small woman with intense eyes and graying hair, clearly someone who had seen too much violence in her career. Her radio crackled with updates from the scene. "Detective," Tyson said, his distinctive voice immediately catching her attention. She turned, her eyes widening as she recognized him. "Mr. Tyson?" "Sir, this is an active crime scene. You need to—" "I know," he interrupted gently, "but I think I might be able to help." Detective Santos looked skeptical. "With all due respect, this isn't a boxing match. We have trained negotiators handling the situation." "How's that working out?" Tyson asked, nodding toward the bank, where nothing seemed to be happening. She hesitated, then spoke into her radio. "Command, what's the status with the negotiator?" "The suspect isn't responding to any communication attempts," came the crackling reply. "We're looking at a potential forced entry scenario." Tyson saw the worry flash across the detective's face. A forced entry meant gunfire, and gunfire meant innocent people could die. He had learned enough about human psychology in his own recovery to know that sometimes conventional approaches didn't work. Sometimes it took someone who had walked through hell to reach another lost soul. "Give me 5 minutes," Tyson said. "Let me try talking to him." "Absolutely not. You're not trained for this." "Detective, I've spent my whole life dealing with angry, desperate men. I've been that angry, desperate man. Sometimes the best training comes from experience, not textbooks." The radio crackled again. "Santos, we need a decision. The suspect is getting more agitated. He's making demands we can't meet." Detective Santos looked at Tyson, then at the bank, then back at Tyson. She could see something in his eyes that she recognized from her own years of police work. The look of someone who had seen darkness and found a way back to the light. 5 minutes, she said finally. But the moment things go sideways, you're out of there. As Tyson walked toward the bank's entrance, he felt the weight of 6 lives on his shoulders. This was his chance to prove that redemption wasn't just about changing yourself. It was about using your second chance to save others. The bank's lobby felt like a tomb when Tyson stepped inside. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows across overturned chairs and scattered papers. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant murmur of police radios outside. He could feel eyes watching him from behind the teller counter, where he knew the hostages were being held. That's far enough. The voice that boomed across the lobby was raw with desperation and rage. I said no cops. Who the hell are you? Tyson raised his hand slowly, showing he was unarmed. My name is Mike Tyson. I'm not a cop. I'm just a man who wants to talk. A bitter laugh echoed from behind the counter. Mike Tyson? The boxer? Man, this day just keeps getting weirder. What? They think sending a celebrity is going to make me surrender. Nobody sent me, Tyson replied, taking another careful step forward. I came because I know what it's like to feel like the whole world is against you. I know what it's like to be so angry you can't see straight. You don't know anything about me. The man's voice cracked with emotion. You had millions of dollars and fame. I got nothing but bills I can't pay and a family that's about to lose everything. Tyson could hear the pain underneath the anger. This wasn't a career criminal or a psychopath. This was a desperate man who had reached the end of his rope. The same kind of desperation that had driven Tyson to make terrible decisions in his own life. You're right, Tyson said, moving closer to the counter. I don't know your exact situation, but I know what desperation feels like. I know what it's like to feel like violence is the only answer left. Stop moving. The man's voice was higher now, more panicked. I swear I'll hurt these people. Tyson froze. Through the gaps in the counter, he could see movement. The hostages huddled together on the floor. A woman in a business suit was crying silently. An elderly man clutched his chest, possibly having heart problems. A young bank teller, barely out of college, stared at the ceiling with wide, terrified eyes. What's your name? Tyson asked softly. Silence stretched between them before the answer came. Marcus. Marcus Williams. Marcus, I need you to know something. Whatever brought you here today, whatever's gone wrong in your life, it doesn't have to end like this. There's always another way. Easy for you to say. Marcus shot back. You never had to choose between keeping your lights on or buying your kids medicine. You never had to watch your wife cry because she's working 3 jobs, and it's still not enough. The raw honesty in Marcus's voice hit Tyson like a punch to the gut. He remembered his own mother, working multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. He remembered the shame of wearing the same clothes to school every day, the anger that built up when other kids had things he could never dream of having. You're right, Tyson said. I was lucky. Boxing gave me a way out that most people don't get. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. I threw it all away. Every dollar, every opportunity, every chance at happiness. I let anger and poor choices destroy everything good in my life. So what? You want a pity party. But there was less hostility in Marcus's voice now, more curiosity. No, Tyson replied. I want to tell you that I spent years in prison thinking my life was over. I thought I had lost everything that mattered. But you know what I learned? As long as you're breathing, it's not too late to change the story. Through the counter gap, Tyson could see Marcus now, a thin man in his 30s with exhausted eyes and 3 days of stubble. He was holding an old revolver with shaking hands, sweat pouring down his face, despite the air conditioning. They're going to take my house, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. My little girl, she's got medical bills that are killing us. I work 60 hours a week, and it's still not enough. I came here to rob the place, but when I saw these people... His voice trailed off. You realize they're not your enemy, Tyson finished. They're just people trying to make it through their day. Same as you. Marcus nodded, tears mixing with the sweat on his cheeks. I don't know how this got so messed up. I just needed enough money to keep my family together. Marcus, look at me, Tyson said, his voice firm but gentle. I've made more mistakes than most people make in 10 lifetimes. I've hurt people I loved. I've destroyed relationships that could never be repaired. But the one thing I learned is that you can't fix your life by breaking someone else's. The bank fell silent again except for the quiet sobbing of one of the hostages. Outside, Tyson could hear the police moving into position. Time was running out, and he knew that if he couldn't reach Marcus soon, this would end in violence. My daughter, Marcus whispered. She's only 7. What's going to happen to her if I don't make it home? She needs her father more than she needs money, Tyson said. Trust me, I know what it's like to grow up without a dad. The best thing you can give her is a chance to have her father in her life, even if times are tough. Marcus looked at the gun in his hands like he was seeing it for the first time. I never fired it before today. I bought it at a pawn shop this morning. I thought if I just scared people. But you're not a killer, Marcus. I can see it in your eyes. You're a father who loves his family so much that you were willing to throw away everything to save them. That's not evil. That's love taken to a desperate place. For the first time since entering the bank, Tyson felt hope. He could see the walls around Marcus's heart beginning to crack. The anger was giving way to fear, and fear was giving way to the possibility of redemption. But they weren't safe yet. Outside, he could hear voices getting more urgent, and he knew the police were preparing for the worst-case scenario. He had to reach Marcus completely, or none of them would leave this bank alive. Detective Santos paced behind the police barricade, her radio crackling with increasing urgency. SWAT leader to command, we have movement in the building. Unknown status of negotiation. She pressed the earpiece deeper, straining to hear any communication from inside the bank. Tyson had been in there for 20 minutes, 5 minutes longer than she had promised him. Her superiors were breathing down her neck, and the media circus was growing by the minute. News helicopters circled overhead like vultures, broadcasting the standoff live to millions of viewers. Santos. Captain Rodriguez approached, his face grim. We need to move. The bank's security cameras show the suspect is still armed and agitated. We can't wait any longer. Sir, Tyson is making progress. I can feel it. Feel it. Rodriguez's voice rose. Detective, we have 6 innocent lives in there and a civilian who shouldn't be anywhere near this situation. I'm calling for immediate tactical intervention. Inside the bank, Tyson sensed a shift in energy from outside. The police were running out of patience, and he could see it in Marcus's eyes too. The man was reaching his breaking point. They're going to come in shooting, aren't they? Marcus asked, his voice hollow. Not if we can end this right now, Tyson replied. Marcus, I need you to trust me. I need you to put the gun down and let these people go home to their families. And then what? I go to prison for 20 years. My daughter grows up without a father anyway. Tyson stepped closer, now only 10 feet from the counter. He could see the hostages clearly, their terrified faces, their quiet prayers, their desperate hope that they would survive this day. Prison isn't the end of your story, Tyson said. I know it feels like it, but it's not. You can get help for your family even from inside. There are programs, people who will make sure your daughter gets the medical care she needs. You don't understand, Marcus said, his voice breaking. My wife, she's already talked about leaving. She says she can't handle the stress anymore. If I go to prison, I lose everything, my family, my home, my little girl. The raw pain in Marcus's words cut through Tyson like a blade. He remembered his own family falling apart, the way violence and poor choices had driven away everyone who ever mattered to him. But he also remembered something else. The people who had shown him mercy when he deserved none. Marcus, let me tell you about a man named Cuz D'Amato, Tyson said. He found me when I was 13 years old, angry at the world, heading straight for a life of crime. I had already been arrested dozens of times. Everyone had given up on me, teachers, social workers, even my own family. Marcus was listening now, the gun lowered slightly in his hands. 'cause saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He didn't excuse my behavior, but he believed I could change. He taught me that the strongest thing a man can do isn't throwing a punch. It's choosing not to throw it when every fiber of your being wants to. I'm not a boxer, Marcus whispered. I'm nobody special. Neither was I, Tyson replied. I was just a scared kid from Brooklyn who thought violence was the only language the world understood. But Marcus, the fact that you came here today, that tells me you're fighting for something bigger than yourself. You're fighting for love. Through the bank's windows, Tyson could see SWAT team members moving into position. Their time was almost up. Those people behind you, Tyson continued, gesturing toward the hostages. They have families too. Children waiting for them to come home. Wives and husbands who don't know if they'll ever see them again. You have the power right now to be their hero instead of their nightmare. Marcus looked at the hostages for the first time since Tyson arrived. Really looked at them. The elderly man was clutching a photograph, probably his grandchildren. The young teller had tears streaming down her face. The businesswoman was silently mouthing what looked like a prayer. I never wanted to hurt anyone, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. I just wanted to save my family. You still can, Tyson said, but not like this. Put the gun down, Marcus. Let these people go home. Face whatever comes next with dignity. Outside, Captain Rodriguez was giving final orders. SWAT team, prepare for breach in 60 seconds. Santos, get your civilian out of there now. Detective Santos felt her heart racing. She had made the decision to let Tyson try, and now 6 innocent lives, plus Tyson's, hung in the balance. She spoke into her radio. Tyson, if you can hear this, you need to get out now. We're coming in. But inside the bank, neither Tyson nor Marcus heard the warning. They were locked in a moment that would determine not just their fates, but the fates of everyone in that building. My daughter's name is Ashley, Marcus said suddenly. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up. She's so smart, smarter than me. She deserves better than this. Then give her better, Tyson said. Show her that her father is strong enough to do the right thing even when it's the hardest thing in the world. Marcus looked at the gun in his hands, then at Tyson, then at the hostages. For a moment, time seemed frozen. The only sound was the ticking of the bank's wall clock, counting down the seconds until the SWAT team would burst through the doors. Will you do something for me? Marcus asked. Anything. If something happens to me, will you make sure Ashley knows that I love her? That everything I did, even this, was because I love her. Tyson felt tears welling up in his eyes. You're going to tell her yourself, Marcus. You're going to live through this and spend the rest of your life showing her how much you love her. The sound of boots moving outside grew louder. Vehicles were repositioning. The tactical teams were seconds away from action. Marcus raised his eyes to meet Tyson's. In them, the former champion saw the same desperation he had once felt, the same darkness that had nearly consumed him. But he also saw something else, a flicker of hope, a tiny flame that hadn't been completely extinguished. Okay, Marcus whispered. Okay. But as he began to lower the gun, the bank's front door exploded inward. The world erupted in chaos as the SWAT team burst through the bank's entrance. Flashbang grenades detonated with blinding light and deafening noise. Smoke filled the air as tactical officers swarmed in, their weapons trained and ready. The hostages screamed in terror, diving for cover as confusion consumed the lobby. Get down. Everyone get down. The officers' voices boomed through the smoke and ringing ears. In the split second before the breach, Tyson saw Marcus's face transform. The flicker of hope he had worked so hard to kindle was instantly replaced by pure panic. The progress they had made, 25 minutes of careful, patient work to reach the man's heart, shattered like glass in an earthquake. They lied to me. Marcus screamed, raising the gun toward the advancing officers. You all lied to me. Time slowed to a crawl in Tyson's perception. He could see the SWAT officers' fingers moving toward their triggers. He could see Marcus's face contorted with betrayal and rage. He could see the hostages, innocent people about to be caught in a crossfire. And in that frozen moment, Tyson made a choice that would define the rest of his life. Without thinking, without calculating, he launched himself between Marcus and the SWAT team. "Don't shoot!" Tyson roared, his arms spread wide. "He's putting it down." He was putting it down. The lead SWAT officer, Sergeant Mike Patterson, saw Tyson's massive frame blocking their line of sight to the suspect. Everything in his training told him to clear the civilian from the line of fire. But something in Tyson's voice, the absolute conviction, the desperate authority, made him hesitate for just a second. "Marcus," Tyson called over his shoulder, never taking his eyes off the weapons pointed at him. "Don't let it end like this. Your daughter needs you." Behind him, Marcus stood frozen, the gun still in his hand but not raised. The smoke from the flashbangs was clearing, and everyone in that lobby could see the tableau. Mike Tyson, the most feared fighter in boxing history, using his body as a human shield to protect a desperate man with a gun. "Put the weapon down now," Sergeant Patterson commanded, his rifle trained on the space just over Tyson's shoulder. "He's scared," Tyson replied without moving. "Give him a second. He was surrendering when you came in." Detective Santos appeared in the doorway, surveying the scene with horror. Her decision to let Tyson try had led to this. A standoff within a standoff, with the former heavyweight champion literally standing between life and death. "Marcus," she called out, her voice cutting through the tension. "My name is Detective Santos. Mr. Tyson is right. We don't want anyone to get hurt. Put the gun on the counter and step away from it. We can work this out." "How can I trust you?" Marcus's voice was hoarse with emotion. "You said you'd give us time, and then you came in shooting." "We're not shooting," Patterson replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "But you need to drop that weapon right now." Tyson could feel the electric tension in the air, the way it felt in the ring just before a fight turned violent. Every person in that bank was balanced on the razor's edge between life and death. One wrong word, one sudden movement, and everything would explode into irreversible tragedy. "Marcus," Tyson said, his voice carrying the calm authority he had learned through years of meditation and soul-searching. "Look at me." Slowly, Marcus turned his eyes toward Tyson without moving his body. "You told me your daughter wants to be a doctor," Tyson continued. "You know what doctors do. They save people. They take impossible situations, and they find a way to make them better. That's what we're doing right now. We're finding a way." One of the hostages, the young bank teller, began to sob quietly. The sound cut through everyone present like a knife. The voice of pure innocence caught in a web of adult desperation and violence. "That girl is somebody's daughter too," Tyson said gently. "Just like Ashley is yours. Her parents are probably watching the news right now, praying she comes home safe." Marcus's hand began to tremble more violently. Tyson could see the internal war playing out on his face. The father who wanted to survive for his daughter battling against the desperate man who felt trapped and betrayed. "I can't go to prison," Marcus whispered. "I can't leave Ashley alone." "She won't be alone," Detective Santos said, stepping further into the bank despite the protests of the SWAT team. "Marcus, there are programs to help families of incarcerated parents. Organizations that make sure kids get the support they need. Your daughter won't be abandoned." "Besides," Tyson added, "prison doesn't have to be the end of your story. I know men who went in angry and broken and came out stronger, better fathers than they ever were on the outside. It's not about where you are. It's about who you choose to become." The bank fell silent except for the quiet crying of the hostages and the distant sound of news helicopters overhead. Marcus stood motionless, the gun still in his hand, his entire future balanced on the decision of the next few seconds. "Your daughter is watching the news too," Tyson said quietly. "Right now, she doesn't know if her daddy is coming home, but she will remember this day for the rest of her life." "What do you want her to remember? That her father was a man who hurt innocent people? Or that he was a man who found the strength to do the right thing when it mattered most?" Marcus closed his eyes, and for a moment, Tyson thought he might collapse. When he opened them again, there was something different there. Not hope, exactly, but resolution. "Will you really help me make sure Ashley is okay?" Marcus asked. "I give you my word," Tyson replied. Not just me, but all of us. We'll make sure she knows her father loved her enough to choose mercy over violence. Slowly, Marcus began to lower the gun. The movement was so gradual it was almost imperceptible, but everyone in that bank saw it happening. The SWAT officers kept their weapons trained, but didn't fire. The hostages held their breath. Detective Santos felt her heart hammering in her chest. "That's it," Tyson encouraged. "You're doing the right thing, Marcus. The hardest thing, but the right thing." The gun was halfway to the counter when Marcus stopped. His face was streaked with tears, and his whole body was shaking with the effort of surrender. "I'm so scared," he admitted. "I know," Tyson replied. "But courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you're terrified." Marcus took a deep breath, looked one more time at the hostages he had held captive, and gently placed the gun on the marble counter. The metallic sound it made seemed to echo through the entire building, the sound of violence choosing to lay down its arms. "I'm sorry," Marcus said to the hostages, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry." But even as the words left his mouth, even as the SWAT team moved in to secure the weapon, Tyson sensed that their ordeal was far from over. The hardest part, the part where they all had to figure out how to heal from this day, was just beginning. 6 months later, Mike Tyson sat in the visiting room of the Arizona State Prison Complex, waiting for Marcus Williams to appear. The sterile gray walls and fluorescent lighting reminded him too much of his own time behind bars. The isolation, the regret, the slow process of rebuilding a life from the ashes of terrible choices. Marcus walked through the door looking different than he had that day in the bank. Prison had aged him, but there was something in his posture that suggested he was carrying himself with more dignity. His eyes met Tyson's, and both men shared a moment of recognition that went beyond words. "You came," Marcus said as he sat down across from the former champion. "I told you I would," Tyson replied. "How are you holding up?" Marcus managed a small smile. "Better than I expected. I've been in a counseling program, learning about financial management and anger control. Turns out there were a lot of resources I never knew about, ways to get help without." He gestured around the prison visiting room. "And Ashley," Marcus's face lit up at the mention of his daughter. "She's doing good, really good. Detective Santos helped connect my wife with a support group for families dealing with medical bills. They got Ashley into a clinical trial for her condition. It's covering all the costs. And the bank, they decided not to press charges for the damages. Said they wanted to focus on healing instead of revenge." Tyson nodded, remembering his conversation with the bank manager weeks after the incident. The community had been shaken by what happened, but they had also been moved by the way it ended, with mercy instead of violence, with everyone going home alive. "She asks about you," Marcus continued. "Ashley, she saw you on the news that day, and now she tells everyone that Mike Tyson is her daddy's friend." "Smart kid," Tyson said. "Takes after her father." "I'm not sure about that," Marcus replied with a bitter laugh. "Smart men don't rob banks. Smart men learn from their mistakes," Tyson corrected, "and they use their second chances to become better than they were before." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching other inmates visit with their families. Children played in the designated area, while parents tried to maintain connections that were strained by bars and distance. "I got a letter from one of the hostages," Marcus said suddenly. "Mrs. Chun, the business manager who was there that day. She said she forgives me. Said she hopes I find peace, and that Ashley grows up proud of her father." Tyson felt a familiar tightness in his chest, the same emotion he experienced whenever he witnessed the incredible capacity humans had for forgiveness. People can surprise you with their grace. "I don't deserve it," Marcus said quietly. "None of us do," Tyson replied. "That's what makes it grace." Marcus looked down at his hands, calloused now from prison work. "I've been thinking a lot about that day, about what you said about redemption. I always thought it was about making up for the bad things you'd done. But it's not, is it?" Tyson leaned forward slightly. "What do you think it is?" "I think it's about becoming someone who would never do those bad things again. It's not about fixing the past. It's about changing the future." That's the wisest thing anyone's ever said to me about redemption, Tyson said with genuine admiration. They talked for another hour about Marcus's plans for when he was released, about the job training program he had enrolled in, about his dreams of opening a small business that could help other families facing financial crises. Tyson promised to write letters of recommendation when the time came and to help connect Marcus with people who could give him a real second chance. As the visit wound down, Marcus asked the question that had been weighing on him for months. Why did you do it? That day in the bank, you could have been killed. Why did you put yourself between me and those guns? Tyson was quiet for a long moment, considering how to answer. For most of my life, I was the guy people were afraid of. I was the violence in the room, the anger everyone had to walk around. I hurt people, physically, emotionally. I caused pain. He paused, looking through the visiting room's barred windows at the desert landscape beyond. That day in the bank, for the first time in my life, I had the chance to be the guy who stops the violence instead of causing it. I had the chance to save lives instead of destroying them. It wasn't about being brave, Marcus. It was about finally being the man I always should have been. Marcus nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. My sentence review is in 2 years. I've been working with the Victim Impact Program, trying to make things right with everyone who was in the bank that day. Some of them even come to visit me sometimes. That's incredible, Tyson said. Detective Santos says there's a good chance I could get early release if I keep up with the programs. She's been advocating for me, if you can believe that. Tyson could believe it. He had kept in touch with Detective Santos over the months, watching as the incident had changed her perspective on justice and redemption. She had become an advocate for rehabilitation programs and restorative justice, using the bank standoff as an example of how situations that seemed hopeless could be transformed through human connection and understanding. When you get out, Tyson said as their time together came to an end, I want you to come speak with me at some of the community centers. Tell your story. Let people know that it's possible to come back from the worst mistakes of your life. Marcus's eyes widened. You really think people would want to hear from someone like me? Marcus, people don't need to hear from perfect people. They need to hear from people who've been broken and found a way to put themselves back together. They need to know that redemption is possible, even for those who think they've gone too far. As they stood to say goodbye, Marcus extended his hand to Tyson. Thank you, not just for that day, but for showing me that I could be better than my worst moment. Tyson shook his hand firmly. We all can be. That's the promise of redemption. It's never too late to become who we were meant to be. Walking out of the prison that day, Tyson reflected on the strange journey his life had taken. From the youngest heavyweight champion in history to convicted felon to redemption advocate. It hadn't been the path anyone would have predicted, but it had led him to that bank in Phoenix, to that moment when he could use his second chance to help save others. The sun was setting over the Arizona desert as he drove back toward Phoenix, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. In a few hours, he would speak at another community center, to another group of young people who thought their mistakes had defined them forever. He would tell them about second chances and redemption, about the power of choosing mercy over violence. And somewhere in the desert behind him, Marcus Williams was learning the same lesson that had taken Tyson decades to understand, that the strongest thing a person can do is not to throw a punch, but to choose not to throw it when every fiber of their being wants to. That redemption isn't just about changing yourself. It's about using your second chance to save others. The cycle of violence ends when someone has the courage to step into the space between rage and reason, between desperation and hope. On that day in the Phoenix Bank, Mike Tyson had finally found the fight that mattered most. Not the one that made him a champion, but the one that made him a hero.